What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is. Welcome back to another video with you, man, Measureholic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of my Britanni campaign for the Age of Justinian mod in Total War Attila. Now, before we jump into the video, I do want to just say, if you have any suggestions for army names, please leave them down below. Whether you want it to be your own name Latinized, or just another name that you think would be fitting our Roman legions, please leave a comment and let me know, and I will try to choose the best. But anyway, now that we got that out of the way, you can see that we are dealing with a war straight off the bat. The Irish are coming. At least they should be. But we'll see how I respond in just a minute. But basically, the Scotti faction, or Scotii, or the Irish, are attacking us, and they have two decent-sized armies sailing around Wales and ignoring our forces stationed there, and they're actually heading down to southern England, and they're going to try and invade our capital down there. So instead of trying to rush an army down there to handle their armies, I'm actually just going to recruit some mercenaries in my garrison army here and send this makeshift legion across the ocean to Ireland. We're not going to be like the Saxons of the Viking times. We're not going to sit around and wait for them to come to our shores. Instead, we're going to go hunt them down, and we're going to destroy their homes, and we're going to make them submit to us before they have a chance to destroy our homes. This is very much a betrayal too. We actually had a trade agreement with them. I don't think we had a non-aggression pact, but either way, the Irish need to be put down, so let's do it. And there is Dublin on the cliffs. We have our ships floating in. We are attacking entirely by the sea though. We do have a cavalry regiment on the beach already, but this is a naval invasion, and because of that my troops are going to be suffering since they aren't really naval types of troops, but that's okay. I'm hoping that our numbers can carry the day for us. They are sending their small fleet. You can see it coming around the cliffs to try and intercept my ships. But I'm just going to ignore them and land my troops as quickly as I can. And we do that without any incident. However, the enemy ships will be coming in behind us and landing on the shores as well, but it's only like 2 ships. So what we're going to do is just surround them and decimate them before they can link up with their Irish brethren in the town. And we do just that just fine without any issue. The Irish garrison in the town does come out of its, defenses, but they don't come and help those on the beach, so they get slaughtered, and then we position our army on the hills just outside of their farmlands of the town. The enemy does have some skirmishers though, and they are starting to do some damage to my troops. They're hitting us with slinger fire, so to try and draw the enemy into open combat, I'm going to be using my cavalry to chase them down. As soon as I give the attack order for my cav, their cavalry comes to try and intercept mine, and then we're going to be able to draw them into an engagement, and they basically charge across the entire front line. So that's exactly what I wanted. I do have my troops stationed in 2 separate lines. I have my mercenary axemen at the front, some levy spearmen behind them to give them some backup, and then I also have some javelin men that I recruited. And they're actually going to do a lot of damage in the form of morale damage to the enemy. And as soon as they start sending out volleys in the back, the enemy garrison just can't handle it, and a lot of them are going to begin the rout. However, here towards the beach more, in this little clump of forest, we have a very chaotic melee engaging. My cavalry is doing a recharge on the enemy. We have their captain of the garrison, I should say, stuck here, and he's fighting some of our troops. He's lasting quite a while though, so I am going to send in some melee troops shortly to help finish that off. But this is mainly their primary resistance that they presented to us. The rest of their troops engaged our line for just about a minute or 2, and then they routed after they realized they were being surrounded. But the captain does go down honorably, but the rest of the garrison does not, and they ended up fleeing en masse, and Dublin is now ours. Here are these stats if you want to see them. There's not a lot to see though. We only lost just over 100 men. They lost their entire garrison, obviously. And now mercenary axemen led the way on kills, as they nearly always do. They're very, very invaluable for this campaign. For dealing with the Irish, though, I debated on a while if I wanted to destroy the city, occupy it, or make them just my clients. And we're actually going to do that. We're going to subjugate the Irish, so they will still be relatively independent, but they will be under our thumb as well. And they'll still exist, so they could be grateful for that. They stabbed us in the back. We're giving them a second chance to now serve the Roman Empire, or at least the British Roman Empire. So now we're going to send back that legion, and they'll be dubbed Legio II Dublin for their heroism in taking Dublin very quickly. But up here in the north, this is where we have some serious battles going down. The Angli are now launching a counter-offensive against our troops. They're being held out in Northumberland in the city of Ep.2, which is their capital. They're now sick of us taking their smaller settlements in southern England, and now they're coming for us en masse. This is going to be a big one, folks. And here is our king, Lucius Artorius, 77 years old. He's getting old, fam. That's crazy. 77 years old and he can stand up wearing that chainmail. What a champion. But anyway, the flag of the Britanni flies over this town here. We do have a fairly defensible town. I'm going to show you guys how I have my army composition set up. I won't do it for every battle, but since this campaign's still new, I want to try to show off the troops as much as I can to you. So on the backside here, we have some swordsman units. We don't have much else, though, because of the layout of the town. Even though their enemy army is coming at us from behind, they've actually split their army in two. They have a long path on the left-hand side, you could see, where they have to go up and around our walls. So our rear entrance is basically going to be fine. I just had units there just in case I missed something. But all along our walls over on this side of the hilltop, we have skirmishers, and they're going to be getting some very nice shots on the enemy as they charge up into our primary defense here. We have a mixture of spearmen and swordsmen holding the line. I would have used just only spearmen because they can use a shield wall ability, but I did not have enough. And then along the front here, we have some more skirmishers, followed by some bowmen. But our bowman capacity was very limited, so that's why we have so many skirmishers instead. But they're out there in the distance. You can see the main enemy army. They'll be charging at us from the front, and so I'm hoping that my bowman can get a lot of damage in before the enemy engages in our ranks. That guy is very keen. He's clapping his hands together. He's a champion. He's ready to go. We do have a decent amount of bowmen, but this is multiple units put together. The garrison of the town was pretty much decimated. It hasn't had time to recover since we've taken the town recently, so that's okay though. Down below though, I have 3 swordsman units set up in a bit of a U-shaped formation. I'm basically trying to invite the enemy to come in and be surrounded by my troops, while my skirmishers are also pummeling them in the back with their javelins. I was expecting this area to be the main push of the enemy, but we'll see just how wrong I was about that very soon. But then of course we have more swordsmen down here with the small circular shields and very little armor, if any. The battle begins with some fire arrows being launched by our towers and the enemy charging straight into our town and not messing around. People who live in the town are doing a very brave, I guess, aggressive charge against the enemy. I put them in frenzy mode. They're trying to defend their homes. They don't want the enemy getting in the town, but there's just so few of them and too many of the enemy, so the most they're going to do is give my archers more time to get some kills, and they actually will. We also have catapults firing their stone boulders at the enemy, so you can see that coming in as well. It's a very, even though it's just a small unit, it's a very useful maneuver that they're charging out like that. The enemy sends their cavalry in from behind though, and they're actually going to be trying to move very quickly. They're not going to stop and try to capture any of our arrow towers or anything, so they're going to take a lot of fire, but they're trying to charge in and get basically in melee very quickly, so they don't take as many losses, or if they do, they might be able to make us do some friendly fire damage. But here on the right hand side, this is where we're going to be seeing a large chunk of the fighting, if not the majority, where we have our combination of spears and swords, so that's going to be fairly helpful. Cavalry does get a small charge in against our swordsmen, so that is going to help them break the line a little, but I already have reinforcements behind them in the second line, and my archers are just decimating the enemy. Here's another very good shot where you're seeing the enemy having to run all the way from left to right for our archers across the entire front line, and some of the units are routing before they can even get into a melee, so that's really, really helpful. back over here where I thought the main battle was going to take place. So the enemy is making almost no ground whatsoever. I do have a barricade there that they're trying to cut through, but they're getting hit by archer fire from behind, so it's unlikely that this unit's going to make it through. But some units will make it through in a little while. They did have a second army that was being reinforced from behind their original position, so this is them coming in now. It's just a general and a few spear units with him. Nothing too crazy, but it could be substantial if I ignored it. So our catapult's going to try to do some damage, and our swordsmen are still in the U-shaped formation at the bottom of the screen. You just can't see them just yet. But I wanted to turn the UI to show you where the enemy units basically were, and as you can see, they're almost entirely clumped around that one entrance that we have. But they did send some spearmen units here towards my U-shaped formation. Thankfully, we had our U-shape still in formation, so we're going to get the charges that we need to deal with these spearmen very quickly. Even though this is a modified version of Attila, the units still die quite quickly. So even though this is a very large battle, it went for about 15 or 20 minutes, I think. But a lot of it was basically just my spearmen grinding to stop the enemy from getting into our fort hill. And then the rest of it was me flanking with my swordsman. And here you're seeing another shot with the UI turned on, so you can see me surrounding the enemy blob that's attacking our fort. And my cavalry are also out there. Very limited, they were decimated from the previous attack on the town that we launched. But even just like a unit of 10 cavalry can help you turn the tide and run down a lot of enemy units as well. The enemy does bring pikemen into the fort, and they're actually going to help them out a fair bit. But you can see they're getting a massive chunk of their troops routing all at once. And we didn't kill the king right there and then, but they're basically routing because they can't handle the amount of fire that they've taken, the losses, and being surrounded by cavalry and infantry. So I'm trying to hunt down as many of the enemy as I can, while I'm using my cavalry and my bowmen who no longer have ammunition. But with that surround and so many of their troops routing, that's basically the end of the fight right there. It actually turned out to be fairly easy. And here is a beautiful last shot of their king trying to escape. His entire bodyguard was thrashed. The rest of his army was being hunted down throughout the town and the forest outside of it. And then he just gets cornered and absolutely slaughtered here by our cavalry that comes back. And with that, we defeat the Angli army. Here are these statistics if you want to see them. They had an almost 2-to-1 advantage over us, but it still just wasn't enough. Our positioning was too good, and our troops had better discipline and organization. So with that, we do hold the town of Lindo Cleaner. I'm going to call that Lindo. But yeah, very, very nice defense. And we wipe out their entire main army. We killed their king, and I believe that might have been his heir that was reinforcing as well, so that's awesome. But Lindo is down there to the south. It's now ready to pounce north. The Angli do have a small army left in between here and Efforwich, and then on the east coast, the Frisians, which are basically Germanic Vikings coming in, and they have a massive army just on our eastern shore. They're at war with the Angli though, they're not at war with me just yet. So I'm wanting to rush forward and take Efforwich up here before the Frisians can. Otherwise, if they take it and get a foothold in England, then that's just going to be some more Germans that we're going to have to kick out, and that's going to be a very troubling and probably pain in the butt issue to deal with, because they had a massive force, and their force is good. Their axemen will absolutely trash my swordsmen to pieces, so we needed this little blitz on Efforwich, and we do it just fine. I end up auto-resolving the battles. I don't mind that we lose a couple hundred guys. It's not the end of the day. I mean, not the end of the world, and we can use the walls to defend Efforwich if the Frisians do end up attacking straight away, which they didn't, but they could have, so I did take a bit of a calculated risk. But the city is almost in ruins, so we're going to have to spend a while repairing it. I bring up the 2nd Dublin Legion with its levy spears to garrison Efforwich while it recovers, and then the 1st Legion Britanni, led by King Lucius, is charging out towards the Frisians. We're not at war with them right now, but I am trying to block them in, and I'm also doing some diplomacy with them to try and figure out if they're going to be friendly with me or not. Basically, the bottom line is that they're not. But before we do that, though, the Picts are attacking my client state of the Irish. And even though we don't really care if the Irish get wiped out or not, we do need to be the dominant power in the British Isles, so we are going to back them up. So we're now at war with the Picts, which are basically the northern Scotsmen, and now we're also at war with the Frisians, who have a massive army here in northern England. So we're going to wipe out this army first, and then we're going to worry about sending armies north to defend, to kill the Picts up there. We have a massive battle on our hands though. The Frisians have a very large force, but hopefully our discipline can win the day here as well. And here we are on the battlefield. Very large, very wide, very flat battlefield. It's going to be fairly favorable to our tactics since we have a very full army of swordsmen, so I'm feeling fairly confident. But they do have quite a few axemen, and they have some cavalry that I'm going to try to deal with. I have some of my skirmishers that have guerrilla deployment ahead of my army, and then combined with my cavalry unit are going to charge in and try to deal with their cav early on, so that way they can't outflank me, and my bowmen and my catapults have some extra time to do some more damage. But eventually I had to withdraw my bowmen because the enemy just started to rush us completely, so they're going to charge into my swordsmen. We have a 2-line formation system set up here. My first line will take the charge, and then they'll stay in combat for quite a while. In the meantime, my arrows will be raining fire in from behind them. In addition, I have a second line of swordsmen waiting, and I also have some auxiliary units on the left-hand flank in particular that I'll be immediately trying to surround the enemy with and get some rear charges, especially on their berserker units that they do have. I believe it's that half-naked unit on the end of the battle line that you're seeing right now. I believe that's a berserker unit, so I'm trying to surround them and kill them as quickly as I can. But they are a little bit blobbed up, but they have attacked across our entire line. I could have surrounded them with even more swordsmen, but I didn't want to. First off, it's a little OP, just instantly always surrounding the enemy. But second off, they could have actually just broken through our first line regardless. So I'm trying to make sure I have a steady center, and we're presenting a very solid battle line, which we did. And then with us surrounding the enemy and now using arrow fire on them, a lot of them are going to start to rout. Not all of them though, but a large chunk of their army is routing. They have about half of their army routing, and the other half is engaged in our center here. We will be chasing down their troops that are routing, but a lot of them will actually come back from routing. And so it kind of turns into a bit of a mess. There's multiple battles happening across the battlefield essentially. My troops are more disciplined and organized, so they should be winning the day. But if the enemy gets their really good charging units into good charges on my troops, then we could see some massive casualties pile up. But right now we're still going okay. We are taking some heavy losses. As you can see, we have a couple units that are in the red on their unit cards. But a lot of their troops are routing and are way out of position. They're not organized whatsoever. They have no more archers. They do have some slingers with ammunition still, but they're basically pointless at this point. And here we see the enemy king of the Frisians, charging in with his personal bodyguard. I tried to surround him and kill him as quickly as I could, but he's an excellent leader. Has a really powerful bodyguard, and so he's going to get a lot of kills on my swordsmen. So I'm going to be trying to outflank him and charge him as best as I can. And I'll be bringing my archers in to get involved as well. Even though we'll get some friendly fire, such a powerful unit like this, they need to be doing what they can to take them out. Or we need to be doing what we can, I should say. Very cinematic battle though. I really love playing without the UI turned on. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the close-ups. Again, I'm very impressed by the units added in from the Age of Justinian, and I hope you all are too. Here's the king right here in his chainmail with no sleeves. He has a fur coat and blonde hair in the center of the screen there. He's surrounded by swordsmen right now who are taking various stabs at him, quite literally. But it's too late. His entire army routs. He's surrounded by our troops, and then in that mess, he ends up getting slaughtered along with the rest of his band. So now the Frisians have basically been kicked out of England. We win the day. Here are the stats if you want to see them. Again, as always, our axemen carried the day with the most kills, but our swordsmen did fantastic. However, they did take losses quite severely, so I do need to get some better tier swordsmen. I'm trying to work on that in our technology screen, but I'll get into that a little bit more in depth in another video. For now, we just have to do the best with what we have. Frisians do manage to escape with a few of their units. Somehow I can't reach them with the first legion, which is just ridiculous. But anyway, we ended up chasing them down in order resolving them away. But now we're getting towards the end of the video here. Before we end it, we're going to say goodbye to Lucius Artorius. He is our king. He was leading the first legion, but he's getting old. He's 77 years old. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. So we're going to replace him with his son and heir, Gaius Constantinus, I believe it's pronounced, so Constantinus. Either way, we'll just call him Gaius. Your boy Gaius is not a very good commander. He's 24 years old, but still very inexperienced. 29 years old, I should say. Still very inexperienced. He has a lot to prove, and he has a lot of weight on his shoulders. Basically, the survival of Roman Britain is now dependent on him. And he gets tested very quickly. We still have the war with the Picts in the north, but we also have some of the Viking factions declaring war on us and telling us that they will be coming to raid our shores. So that could be a massive problem in the coming turns and months, but it isn't immediately. I do have a fleet assembling down here on the southeast coast, and we haven't seen any sign of the Vikings just yet. So I'm going to be hiring some mercenaries until I can recruit enough ships to feel a little bit more comfortable in our defense. But it takes quite a while to recruit a navy, 2 turns per ship, or per a group of ships. So that's going to be quite a while. We then spend the winter recruiting up here in Ep.2. We also have the 2nd Legion, 2nd Dublin Legion recruiting down in the south. I'm sending them up to Ep.2 to garrison the city, while my navy, now it's being fairly large, has been keeping the Frisians out of England. And now the 1st Legion, under General Gaius, the heir to our kingdom, is now marching north from the Picts. They did have an army just outside of Hadrian's Wall that I knew about, but I tried to ignore and just go for the capital like we did with the Irish. However, the Picts are a little bit smarter than the Irish, and they come in and hit us from behind. Gaius was not ready for this. His gamble has not paid off, and there's a massive Pict force chasing him down. He's going to be able to retreat once at least, and hopefully he can get out of their range. They have a lot of cavalry and a lot of pikemen units that will decimate our swords, but he can't get away. And they also have a small secondary army reinforcing. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're going to have to end it for today. So next time, we'll be back with Gaius coming up with his first major test in being the heir and basically our new leader of the Roman Britons. But until then, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.